Palantir is open for trading. Let's show on the screen what exactly is happening here. Again, as I mentioned, the reference price last night was $7.25. Looked like it was going to open around $10. We're at $10.50 right now, so about a 45% gain for Palantir. Again, this is a direct listing. It is the second direct listing today. Asana was the other one. Morgan Stanley and Citadel are the book runners. They're working on these direct listings for both companies. They often take longer than the typical IPO process to find a buyer because they're not working the night before to make sure that there's kind of that book of demand lined up and ready to go. So again, not necessarily raising new capital for the company, allowing existing workers and shareholders to cash out. And so the shares are up 42% on what's been a long but not unexpectedly long process to get this stock open today. We are actually going to be hearing directly from the CEO of Palantir in just a couple of minutes' time. He'll be joining Andrew Ross Sorkin in a first on CNBC interview. In the meantime, we have Ed Lee standing by with a little bit of reaction. I'm sorry, Leslie, whose name sounds like Ed Lee, and we'll be hearing from later on. Leslie Picker is standing by with some reaction to the stock opening here. Leslie?
I have the Lee part of the Ed Lee with Leslie, but no, opening at $10 a share, that's above the reference price, but it's important to note that what a reference price means for a direct listing is not where investors received allocation in an IPO. That's essentially looking at kind of the average trading going on in the private secondary markets to determine that. So it's incorrect to necessarily say it's up from its reference price because money wasn't exchanged hands in the way that an IPO would be allocated at that price. $10 a share is where Morgan Stanley, according to the Wall Street Journal, was informing investors kind of expect a floor around $10 a share. That story was published last week, implying a $22 billion valuation on a fully diluted basis. So this seems kind of in line with what they were communicating to investors, according to the Wall Street Journal sources, with regard to where this thing could open for trading today. What will be worth following up on is where it closes today relative to that $10 per share opening figure. Right now, we're looking like 40 cents above that, 50 cents above that. So that will be worth paying attention to, as well as the volume, as well as the float, because one interesting thing to note with this direct listing compared to previous direct listings of Spotify and Slack is that they actually do have a lockup. So that is one of the big risk factors for a direct listing is previously they haven't had these lockups. So it's a little uncertain who might sell on the first day of trading because the company's not issuing any primary stock. So it's all dependent on current investors to be willing to sell their shares, and that market has to be the right price for them to actually do so. Well, Palantir did things a little bit differently. They actually locked up about 80% of current investors' shares, so only 20% became available to trade today, which could impact the kind of the supply-demand dynamics that you see with traditional IPOs. Kelly.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.